On this episode, we wait out a blizzard to get to Italy, we reminisce on Banshee 1 while hearing Banshee 2 sing, and we make an introduction to the Italian house and cars. I'm in Italy right now, but the truth is this whole thing starts back in California. I was at the shop working on the Banshee, doing what I had been doing for a while now, which is building towards a life that I could feel but I couldn't fully explain yet. The car was nowhere near ready to come over here, but that didn't matter. It was part of the direction, part of the larger thing. California on one side, Italy on the other, and somewhere in between, a life I'm trying to build with my own hands. And like any real build, the thing had already gotten complicated. Way back, I made the decision to run that custom exhaust forward, which meant the stock alternator bracket wasn't gonna work anymore. So there I was, making an alternator bracket because there wasn't one to buy. That kind of work doesn't bother me though. In some ways I like it. There's something honest about being so deep into a project that the normal answers don't fit anymore. Car guys know this feeling. You make one decision, and now 5 other things down the road have to change with it. I can see now that I wasn't just building a car, I was also keeping myself busy. Because as long as I was in the shop solving the next problem, I didn't have to think too hard about what Italy actually means to me now. That part caught up with me later. At the time, I was just working, making progress, trying to move things forward, and then I got a call saying a sinkhole had formed outside of my house here in Italy, and that the retaining wall was being pushed out. So just like that, the reason and the timeline for Italy changed. That kind of thing has a way of happening in life. You think you're heading somewhere on your own terms, and then life comes in from the side and tells you no, actually you're going now, and you're going for a completely different reason. What made it even heavier is that I hadn't been back here in over a year, not since my daughter passed. We were supposed to come here together, so even though I had gone back to work in California and was moving forward in a practical sense, I had not really let myself feel what it would mean to come back here without her. So I did what I can do. I finished the alternator bracket and got the Banshee running and idling right. Left the car and got on the plane. When I got here, I picked up my 1959 MGA and just started driving. And I tell you, that little car helped me more than I expected it to. Old cars can do that sometimes. Not because they fix anything, they don't, but because they pull you back into your body. You have to use all of your senses. You hear everything. You feel the road. You have to smell the air. You have to pay attention. There's no disappearing in a car like that. You're in it fully. And driving through Italy in the MGA gave me a way to be here without forcing some big emotional reckoning in the beginning. I could just drive, look around, think when thinking came, stay quiet when it didn't. And for a minute that mattered. And then there was this house. And this house honestly told the story better than I could at first. The upstairs up here is done. This part holds. I can live here, I can cook here, I can sit down at night and breathe a little. But the rest of the place is still a mess, in the truest sense of the word. The apartment underneath still smells like wet socks and mildew and old newspaper. The garage is really just a corrugated building on a broken slab, and the whole thing needs to come down. A couple of outbuildings need to be rebuilt, and the exterior still carries the scars from the decades this place sat empty before I bought it. Vegetation grew up the walls, trapping in moisture and wrecking the whole outside wall and the plaster inside. So I'm standing in the place that's partially restored and partially falling apart, and it hits me that this is probably why this trip feels the way that it does. Because that's life, isn't it? One part of it is working, one part of it is beautiful, one part of it can hold you, and another part still smells wrong, leans the wrong direction, or needs to be torn down and started over. That doesn't make the good parts fake. It just means that the work isn't done. And I think as men, we understand that, especially if you've lived a little. You get into your 40s, 50s, and 60s, and there are very few people that are standing in some perfectly finished life. Usually one part is solid and another part is carrying the weight of neglect, timing, loss, bad decisions, or just years of not getting enough attention. It could be your business, it could be your health, it could be your relationships, it could be your sense of purpose. And usually it's not just one thing. The mistake is thinking that if some part of it is unfinished, then none of it counts. That's a lie. And as car guys, we should know better than most. We know what a mid-build car looks like. We know the difference between something that is being brought back to life and something that's been abandoned. We know that some parts can be saved, some parts have to be fabricated, and some parts have to go in the trash because they're beyond coming back. We understand that instinctively with machines, but somehow we lose that wisdom when it comes to our own lives. What I didn't expect here is how much the finished parts of the house would matter to me. I'm a classically trained chef, so cooking in the kitchen that I got to pick out for this place meant something to me. It grounded me, just like spending the Saturday and Sunday watching the races on television did. Nothing dramatic, just simple things. But those simple things made the place feel less like a problem and more like a home. Not a finished home, not a fully resolved home, but a place where life could still happen. And that means a lot to me now, because I think a life worth living is made up of a lot of those small proofs. A good kitchen, a working room, an old car on the road, maybe coffee in the morning, the right kind of quiet at the end of the day. People overlook that because it doesn't sound dramatic enough. But most of what makes life feel worth living is not dramatic. It's just solid and it holds. I also found myself thinking a lot about the first Banshee on this trip. This car mattered to me. I put real work into it, but the truth is underneath all the work I did, it still carried another man's dream. This guy bought the car in 1968 and worked on it until 1970. Then he sold it when he found out his wife was pregnant. Homeboy bought and restored an old yacht because he wanted his child to grow up seeing the world. There's something rough and beautiful in that. A man sets one dream down because life asks something bigger of him. I finished the car giving it a vintage race car livery. I respected it, I learned a lot from it, but I never sent it to Italy because I knew deep down that I had finished someone else's sentence. But this Banshee is different. This one starts with my own premise, my own chassis, my own idea of what a car should be, my own sense of what I want to drive and why. And that difference matters to me more now than maybe it would have years ago, because I think a lot of life comes down to the learning and the difference between what you can finish and what actually is yours to finish. Those are not always the same thing. Maybe that's part of what this trip has been trying to show me. Not just that life is unfinished, I already knew that. More that there's a difference between living inside of something that almost fits and finally admitting what actually belongs to you. That applies to more than just cars. It applies to our entire lives. And when you get in touch with that field, it somehow seems to open up and attract things that's meant for you in this existence. That's how I feel about my new Italy project that I'm trying to close a deal on. A twin-spark one-of-one wide-body Alfa Romeo GTV. It feels like it's standing at the intersection of laws of attraction and the nature of alignment. And Italy, for me right now, feels like one of those places where a lot of those truths are standing really close together. Yeah, there's grief here. There's memories here. But there's also continuity here. The daughter I lost isn't my only child, and I have grandkids now who get to grow up in this place and knowing it. So the story is not only about sorrow, even though sorrow is a part of it. And that matters because grief will lie to you if you let it. It'll tell you that the whole line and your whole life is broken, and that isn't true. The line changes, it hurts, but it keeps going. That's part of what I'm learning sitting here. The other part is life can still open while you're standing in the middle of unfinished things. Because I made a friend here who offered me shop space in Italy. And I don't say that like it's some big, huge, happy ending. It's not like that at all. But it did get my attention. Because even here, in the middle of all of this, I can feel the outline of something that might still want to be built. California drives, Italy rallies, good cars, great roads, strong coffee, real meals, and good people. Not as an escape, just as a better way of living in the here and now. And that ideal feels more real to me now than it did before I came back. And that may be the whole point. Not that everything suddenly makes sense, not that the house is fixed, not that the Banshee is done, and not that grief is solved. Nothing like that. Just that life is still open. And maybe a life worth living is not the one that comes together neatly. Maybe it's the one where you keep the faith with what matters while so much of it is still in pieces. That feels true to me right now sitting here. You make the bracket because the stock one no longer fits. You leave one project unfinished because something else calls you away. You drive the old car because it helps you hear yourself think. You cook in a good room while the lower part of the house still needs work. You mourn who's missing and you stay close to who's still here. But through all of it, you keep building. That's not a perfect life, but I'm starting to think that it may be a real one. And at this point, I'd rather have a real life than a perfect one. And I think that's what I've been here learning this whole time, whether I knew it or not. Through cars, through this house, through California, through Italy, through all of the parts that are finished and all of the parts that still need work. The perfect road was never going to be a flawless one. It was never going to be the one without detours, damage, grief, delays, or unfinished business. It was going to be the one that kept asking me to stay with my life, though, to build what's mine to build, to care for what matters, and to keep going. I know this to be true, and that's why I say the perfect road is the one that you're already on.